Newly uncovered footage of Snoop Dogg and Tupac is just surfaced footage that was never meant to be seen.
Even when he played Hit 'Em Up the song, I didn't like the song.
Did you feel like it was
I didn't
too
like
much?
it.
Right.
I didn't like it.
This newly discovered footage doesn't just complicate what we thought we knew about Tupac Shakur and Snoop Dogg's relationship. It completely reshapes the story of Tupac's final moments. When investigators traced where the video came from, the truth left everyone stunned. For decades, fans believed every detail about Tupac's last days had been revealed. Every photo, every interview, every rumor. But then, out of nowhere, a mysterious video appeared online, showing Tupac and Snoop Dogg together after the date the world believed Tupac was gone. At first, most dismissed it as another deepfake or internet hoax. But when experts began analyzing the footage frame by frame, strange details began to emerge. Familiar voices, recognizable movements, and subtle inconsistencies that suggested something far more complex. In the history of hip-hop, few relationships have fascinated fans like the bond between Tupac Shakur and Snoop Dogg. These two West Coast icons, both born in 1971, helped define an era of music and rebellion that continues to shape culture today. But what most people don't realize is that this newly surfaced footage, along with recent revelations, has completely changed how we understand their connection. It reveals a story of mentorship, loyalty, betrayal, and brotherhood that's far deeper than the headlines ever suggested. Their bond wasn't just about making music together. It was about survival in a chaotic world. It was about two men navigating fame, danger, and the politics of death row records while trying to hold on to their humanity. Now with footage recovered from old MTV archives and private collections, we're seeing Tupac and Snoop in a new light. Raw, real, and vulnerable. A light that challenges everything we thought we knew about their final months before Tupac's tragic death on September 13, 1996. Let's rewind to where it all began. The year was 1993, and the setting was a Hollywood party celebrating the film Poetic Justice. Snoop Dogg, fresh off the success of his debut Doggy Style, was one of rap's biggest rising stars. But on that night, one encounter would change his life and hip-hop history forever.
I finally got a chance to meet Pac in 1993 at a rap party for Poetic Justice in LA. And on that night, Pac passed me my first blunt.
You might be thinking a blunt. That's what changed everything. But stay with me, because this moment was about much more than just a new way to smoke. When Tupac introduced Snoop Dogg to blunts, it wasn't just a casual exchange, it was a cultural shift. That single moment marked the beginning of a bond between two legends, and it shaped Snoop's entire laid-back, smooth persona that would later define his identity and become his signature style.
That's right. Tupac is the one that got Snoop Dogg smoking blunts. You see, I was a zigzag man before that shit.
This moment wasn't just about learning a new way to smoke, it was about recognition. Tupac saw something in Snoop that even Snoop hadn't fully realized yet. He recognized potential, drive, and greatness waiting to surface. That belief, Tupac's ability to push Snoop to see more in himself, would become the cornerstone of their relationship. Fast forward to 1995, Tupac was behind bars, his career hanging by a thread. But while the world saw a downfall, Snoop saw an opportunity, a chance to bring his friend back into the spotlight and change the course of hip-hop forever.
And then, in 1995, I told Suge Knight, I said, Suge, get Pac out of prison, have him come join our team at Death Row Records, you know, the most unfuckwittable record label of all time.
When Tupac joined Death Row Records after his release from prison, something extraordinary happened. These two artists, both at pivotal moments in their careers, didn't just become collaborators, they became brothers. Their chemistry was undeniable. Tupac's fiery, passionate energy perfectly contrasted with Snoop's smooth, laid-back flow, creating a balance that would produce some of the most iconic tracks in hip-hop history. Their collaboration on two of America's most wanted from Tupac's landmark double album, All Eyes on Me, the first double album in hip-hop history, became an instant West Coast anthem that still resonates today. But what makes the newly uncovered footage so powerful is how it reveals the depth of their bond beyond the music. This wasn't just about studio sessions or performances. It was about a genuine brotherhood that extended into their personal lives. When Snoop's first son, Corday, was born in 1994, Tupac became like an uncle. Picture this, Snoop in the studio recording Tha Dog Father while Tupac sits nearby feeding the baby McDonald's during long overnight sessions. Even Snoop later admitted that Tupac was a better dad than me, explaining how Pac taught him to value family amidst the chaos of fame. Think about that, Tupac Shakur, one of the most intense and driven artists in hip-hop, taking the time to help his friend become a better father. This wasn't about image or PR, it was real love and mentorship. Pac even played matchmaker, convincing a hesitant Snoop to marry his high school sweetheart Shantae Bro. In 1997, they're still together today, a lasting testament to Tupac's wisdom and genuine care for Snoop beyond the spotlight. Now, let's talk about the footage that recently resurfaced, because in these unguarded moments, we see their connection like never before. One rare clip from February 22, 1996, just weeks after Snoop's acquittal in his 1993 murder trial, captures a quiet celebration outside Monty's Steakhouse in Los Angeles, a death row hotspot for victory dinners. The short clip shows Tupac and Snoop in the parking lot. No interviews, no cameras, no posturing, just two brothers, smiling, relieved, and sharing a rare moment of peace amid chaos. This footage is powerful because it humanizes them. It reminds us of who they were before the rift, to young men on top of the world, standing shoulder to shoulder against everything. Even more striking is the behind-the-scenes footage from the making of two of America's Most Wanted, filmed in Los Angeles just after Tupac's prison release in late 1995. The clip captures the creative energy between them. Tupac, in a white shirt, and Snoop, in a sharp suit and hat, are seen joking, planning, and vibing like brothers. In interviews from that day, Snoop described Pac as his biggest critic and biggest fan, someone who pushed him to stay sharp without ego. They traded ideas about street life and influence, name-dropping Al Capone and John Gotti as metaphors for power and respect. Tupac saw himself as the relentless hustler, while Snoop represented calm, legitimacy, and balance. At one point, both even predicted that their video would define 1996 hip-hop, a prophecy that turned out to be true. But neither could have imagined the tragedy that was waiting just months ahead. The unraveling of a brotherhood. By mid-1996, hip-hop had become a war zone. The rivalry between Death Row Records West Coast and Bad Boy Records East Coast had evolved from lyrical competition into real-world danger, and at the center of it all were Tupac and Snoop, two friends whose loyalty was about to be tested like never before. To understand their fallout, you have to understand Tupac's mindset. Fresh out of prison and still traumatized from the 1994 Quad Studios shooting, which he believed was orchestrated by East Coast rivals, Tupac had developed an all-or-nothing mentality. To him, loyalty meant everything. He expected complete unity from his death row family, no hesitation, no middle ground. Snoop, however, didn't see it that way. He wasn't built for war, at least not that kind. He believed in peace, in letting the music speak louder than the politics, and that fundamental difference became the crack that split their brotherhood wide open. The breaking point came during a New York radio interview, when Snoop publicly called Biggie and Puff homeboys and praised their talent, despite the ongoing beef. To most, it sounded like maturity, a bridge over the growing East-West divide. But to Tupac, it was betrayal. You have to remember what Pac was feeling at the time: isolated, paranoid, and hurt. He believed he'd risked everything for Snoop, helping him through his trial, mentoring him, feeding his son, encouraging his family. So when Snoop refused to pick a side, Tupac didn't see it as neutrality. He saw it as abandonment. And from that moment on, their brotherhood, one built on loyalty, love, and shared struggle, began to crumble.
Even when he played Hit 'Em Up the song, I didn't like the song.
Did you feel like it was too much?
I didn't like it.
Right.
I didn't like it.
This clip reveals something crucial about Snoop's mindset during that turbulent period. He understood that Tupac's aggressive stance, especially embodied in the infamous diss track, Hit 'Em Up, was inviting more danger than they could handle. Snoop realized that real gangsters existed everywhere, not just within their circle, and that living with a sense of invincibility wasn't strength, it was a death wish. But Tupac didn't see it that way. His loyalty and rage had merged into a single mindset, us versus them, and when Snoop voiced his concerns, it struck a nerve. The tension reached a boiling point during a private flight, leading to one of the most painful and heartbreaking moments in their entire friendship.
Because my didn't say nothing to me the whole ride. And that's a 5-hour flight on a private plane.
Yeah.
So I walk up to him like maybe 3 hours into the flight, sit next to him like, you going to Vegas, cuz? And he turned on me like this and started talking to somebody else. So I'm like, all right. So I go in the back, put the blanket on my head, knife in my hand, fork in my hand.
Let that sink in for a moment. 5 long hours on a private plane, and Tupac didn't say a single word to Snoop. Imagine the tension, the confusion, the heartbreak Snoop must have felt. He had gone from being Tupac's protege and brother to being completely shut out. The fact that Snoop felt the need to arm himself with knives during that flight speaks volumes about how dangerous and unpredictable the situation had become. But the story isn't that simple. It gets even more complicated when you consider other perspectives. Members of Tupac's Outlaw's crew, like Napoleon, claimed that Snoop harbored jealousy over Tupac's rapid rise at death row, that Pac's explosive success had overshadowed Snoop's established stardom. Suge Knight later alleged that jealousy from both Snoop and Dr. Dre toward Tupac contributed to Death Row's eventual collapse. So, was there truth to these claims? It's complicated. Snoop had been the label's golden child before Tupac arrived. Doggy Style had made him a superstar. Then Pac came in, and almost overnight, he became the new face of death row. Tupac reportedly saw Snoop as a studio gangster, tough, on record but hesitant to ride when things got real, a label he later echoed in his track Against All Odds. Online discussions and fan theories from Reddit threads to posts on X often frame this as proof that Tupac was right about Snoop all along. painting Snoop as disloyal or set. But is that really fair? Snoop himself admitted that he was scared during that time. He armed himself, kept his distance from the beef, and focused on protecting his family and career. But was that cowardice or wisdom? Was it betrayal or survival? The truth is, Snoop was thinking about the future, his newborn son, his wife, and the longevity of his career beyond the chaos of the East versus West war. Tupac, meanwhile, was operating from a place of deep trauma, paranoia, and an almost fatalistic acceptance of violence. Their final in-person exchange was cold and heartbreaking. When Snoop invited Tupac to the infamous Vegas fight, the one that would ultimately claim Pac's life, Tupac responded simply, "Nah, I'm good." That short reply said everything. It was more than a rejection, it was the sound of a friendship ending. But here's where things take a surprising turn. Newly uncovered footage provides crucial context that reshapes everything we thought we knew about those final days. Just 3 days before Tupac's death, an MTV interview long overlooked captured a completely different side of both men. What it reveals challenges the entire narrative of their supposed falling out.
We're going to make it specific as to what you can talk about and what you can't talk about. And the East Coast, West Coast thing is something that the journalists and people are making just to get paid off it so it can drag out. So they're perpetuating it so it could be drama.
Listen closely to what Tupac is saying here. He's calling out the media for fueling the East Coast-West Coast rivalry, exploiting tension and conflict, just to sell records and headlines. He knew the industry was profiting off division, manufacturing drama that didn't need to exist. And here's the most important detail. Sitting right beside him during this interview was none other than Snoop Dogg.
If it did exist, Pac, we wouldn't be here. So
right, and if it exists, how we gonna be sitting in New York talking about it? We'll try to be better role models, and y'all try to stop putting that drama out there. You got a lot of power, a lot of responsibility. We both do. We both need to exercise greater restraint.
This footage is absolutely vital because it proves that, even in Tupac's final days, he and Snoop Dogg were still communicating, still appearing side by side in interviews. Tupac was openly acknowledging their shared responsibility as role models. This isn't the image of a completely broken friendship that the world has been led to believe for decades. The most haunting piece of footage comes from July 4, 1996. Tupac's final live performance at the House of Blues in West Hollywood. This benefit concert for the Beverly Hills Teen Choice Awards would become his swan song, and the footage from that night is nothing short of legendary. The 90-minute set is electric, bathed in purple and blue stage lights. With pyrotechnics and a roaring crowd of 500, Tupac, shirtless and dressed in white pants, commands the stage with raw energy, leaping, swinging the mic, and even crowd surfing during California Love. Then, Snoop joins him for two of America's Most Wanted. Snoop strides out in baggy jeans and a marching band jacket. The two trade verses flawlessly, locking eyes, exchanging ad-libs and hyping each other up. At one point, Snoop daps Tupac mid-verse, both men grinning through the fog and flashing lasers. If there was any tension between them, you'd never know it from this performance. What we see instead are two brothers, two icons, at the absolute height of their powers, creating magic one last time. The importance of this performance cannot be overstated. It's often described as hip-hop's Last Supper, a moment of unity, power, and joy, hiding the cracks that had already begun to form beneath the surface. The duet has since amassed over 100 million views across social media, praised for capturing the effortless chemistry that defined West Coast rap. Warren G. later revealed that a surprise visit to his house kept Snoop in Los Angeles on the night of September 7, 1996. The same night, Tupac was fatally shot in Las Vegas, a twist of fate that may have saved Snoop's life. The fact that Snoop wasn't there has fueled endless speculation and conspiracy theories, but perhaps the truth is much simpler and far more tragic. Snoop wasn't there because, while their friendship hadn't been completely destroyed, it had been deeply wounded by circumstances neither of them could control. So what remains? What truth still lingers beneath the myth? Let's dig deeper into legacy, love, and the bond that endures even after death.
I think we was playing a video game, and we kept getting a whole bunch of calls and pages. Somebody told us to turn on the news, and we turned the news on, and we seen the little shit.
When Snoop saw the news, he immediately jumped on a flight to Las Vegas, desperate, anxious, and clinging to the hope that his brother would survive. In his mind, Tupac was invincible. He had survived everything life had thrown at him before: the streets, the shootings, the chaos. Surely he'd pull through this too. But what Snoop walked into that hospital room and saw would stay with him for the rest of his life. It wasn't the fierce, unstoppable Tupac he had known. It was his friend, broken and fighting for his life. That moment shattered Snoop, marking the end of an era and the loss of a bond that could never truly be replaced.
Right after I heard Tupac got shot, I immediately flew to Vegas, and I walked in the room and I seen him laid out on the bed with all kind of tubes and shit in him, and I was so weak I damn near fell over. And his mom came over to me and she grabbed me and she held me up and she said, "Baby, you got to be strong." And I went and sat next to him, and was whispering to him, telling him I loved him and to hold on and he was gonna be okay.
In that moment, Snoop holding Tupac's hand, whispering his final words, feeling their spirits connect even though Tupac was unconscious. The true essence of their relationship was revealed. It wasn't defined by the arguments, the silence on private flights, the diss tracks, or the accusations of jealousy. The truth lived in that quiet, heartbreaking moment of love and brotherhood between two men who, despite everything, never stopped caring for each other. 6 days later, on September 13, 1996, Tupac Shakur passed away at just 25 years old. In the years since, Snoop has carried the weight of that loss, along with the pain of their unresolved final months. But the newly uncovered footage, along with Snoop's later reflections, makes one thing clear. No matter the tension or misunderstandings, the bond between them was unbreakable. Snoop has spent nearly 3 decades honoring that truth through his words and actions. In 2017, he inducted Tupac into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with a heartfelt speech that laid bare his love, his grief, and the brotherhood that not even death could erase.
When I sat down to gather my thoughts about my label mate, my homie, and my brother, there's one thought that kept coming back to me. Tupac, the actual human being. And while many remember him now as some kind of thugged out superhero, Tupac knew he was only human, and he represented through his music like no one before. It's a fact that he never shied away from. He wore it like a badge of honor.
Snoop has often described Tupac's influence as profound, saying that Tupac saw more potential in him than he ever saw in himself. He also praised Tupac's unmatched work ethic, calling it a powerful lesson in dedication and passion.
See, that's the thing with Pac. When he loves hard. Whether that was him loving black people, him loving his homies, him loving his record label, and of course him loving his beautiful and incredibly strong mother, the late Afeni Shakur.
Their hologram reunion at Coachella 2012 stunned audiences, as Snoop performed two of America's Most Wanted alongside Tupac's digital likeness, a moment that was both technologically groundbreaking and emotionally overwhelming for fans, who had waited 16 years to see them together again today. Snoop continues to reflect on Tupac's influence in interviews. From lessons about work ethic and fatherhood to the importance of love and loyalty, he even credits Tupac for inspiring his enduring marriage to Shante Brodus. The fact that Snoop and Shante are still together decades later stands as a living testament to Tupac's wisdom and genuine care for his friends. So what does this newly surfaced footage really tell us? What truth does it reveal that changes everything we thought we knew? It shows that Snoop and Tupac learned from each other, grew together, and built a legacy that transcends all the drama and pain. No, the footage doesn't change the tragic fact that Tupac is gone, taken from us far too soon at just 25 years old. The rift between him and Snoop in those final months was real. The pain was real. The loss was devastating. But what we now understand is that their bond was deeper and more resilient than anyone knew. Even when fame, paranoia, and the chaos of death row records threatened to tear them apart, the love between these two brothers remained unbreakable at its core. Their chemistry was irreplaceable. Their music remains timeless. And now, with this unseen footage and decades of reflection, their story reminds us that even the most complicated friendships, the ones tested by pride, pain, and impossible circumstances, can still hold an unshakable foundation of love that endures everything. But what do you think? Did the rift between Tupac and Snoop run deeper than we ever knew? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And for more untold hip-hop stories like this, click the next video on your screen.